This paste of cooked flour and water has a name. Do you know it? No, not Jenny. No, not Jose. No, not Brianna. Okay, this is not going how I expected it. The name of this little lump of dough is Yudane. It is a Japanese bread making technique. And while it doesn't look like that much, it is the key to the world's fluffiest, pillowiest white bread. Today, we're talking all about the science and art of Shokupan, Japan's angular, bouncy, soft white bread. Yudane shares a lot in common with another Asian bread technique that you may be more familiar with, called tangjong. They share the same goal, to help enriched breads be the best versions of themselves. Softer, lighter, fluffier, and with a longer shelf life. That they can achieve these goals without introducing any ingredients that aren't already in a normal loaf of bread is nothing short of miraculous. Let's make Yudane to see how it works. In the bowl of my stand mixer, I have the half a cup, 118 milliliters of boiling water. To that, I add 3/4 of a cup, or 117 grams of bread flour, and mix to form a rough dough. And then we're done. Okay, so what exactly is going on here? The starch in the wheat flour hydrates and gelatinizes when it comes in contact with the hot water. When that happens, the water is trapped, almost hidden. It's like the Trojan horse. Looks one way on the outside, but contains a secret water. When we add Yudane to the rest of the dough ingredients, that trapped water comes along for the ride, but it doesn't do what water in a dough usually does, which is make it slack, loose, and harder to handle. Check out this experiment. Both of these Shokupan doughs contain the same amount of water. This one was made with Yudane, while this one was not. And just look at the difference in how the doughs feel. The one with the paste is bouncy and springy and easy to press and shape with my fingers. It's a cohesive dough. Without the paste, look at this. It's incredibly slack, wet, and sticky. It sticks to the bowl, it sticks to my fingers, it sticks to everything. Okay, so the Yudane makes a dough that acts less hydrated. That's cool, but it's not nearly as cool as what happens when we bake the dough. Again, just like the Trojan horse, when the dough gets into the oven, castle, that hidden water comes to life and wreaks havoc. Just kidding. It comes to life in the form of steam power, giving breads dramatic rise and a fluffy texture. Once your Yudane is cool enough to handle, all I do is break it up with my hands into chunks that I'll mix with the rest of the Shokupan dough. Now, many versions of Shokupan use milk for some or all of the liquid, so that's what I'm adding here. Then in goes more bread flour and yeast. I knead everything for a minute or two until the flour is evenly moistened, then let it rest for 15 minutes. This step is called an autolyse. We let the dough rest to allow starch to hydrate and gluten development to begin, allowing for a shorter kneading time to bring it all together. We hold back on the sugar and salt at this stage to allow water to do both things as effectively as possible. Then I add my sugar and salt and knead it up. Beautiful. Once we form lots of gluten and have a nice looking dough, I add softened butter for buttery richness and tenderness, but it's only 2 tablespoons, and that's not much relative to the amount of dough here. All in all, this Shokupan is a surprisingly lean dough. We don't need fat to tenderize. We've got the Yudane for that. Save that butter for slathering on each slice. After a rise until doubled in volume, we're back to our lovely dough. Now, Yudane isn't the only defining characteristic of Shokupan. It also usually features a unique and important shaping method. I first divide my dough into 4 equal pieces, and I use my hands and a rolling pin to flatten each round into a square, fold it into thirds, and roll it up into a spiraled cylinder. Then I nestle each of these very cute spiral bundles into the loaf pan like this for the second rise. They won't be touching at this point, but by the end of the rise, they'll be puffed up cheek to cheek. This technique expels large pockets of air to give a nice fine crumb. And it also lines up sheets of gluten in tight spirals that will give the final bread a feathery, almost cotton candy-like crumb. I'm using a Pullman pan here, which features a lid. Now, if you don't have one, you could absolutely do it in a regular loaf pan. But these are worth investing in if you bake a lot. I just love the square loaves they produce. After a 30-minute bake, my loaf registers over 195 degrees, which means it's done. I'll flip it out onto a wire rack to cool. Letting fresh baked bread cool is one of those hard but worthwhile good things come to those who wait life lessons. According to Cooks Illustrated senior science research editor Paul Adams, bread that's still warm is effectively undercooked. The internal crumb structure is sticky, the crust is soft, and the flavor is lacking because it's diluted by the excess free moisture inside the loaf. Allowing the bread to cool before slicing ensures it finishes cooking and sets up, which also makes it easier to slice. But also, sometimes I like to ignore that and tear it at the seams. Okay, let's slice into this fully cooled loaf and just look at how beautiful it is. Perfectly square with a delicate, airy crumb. Check out this experiment. I also baked a loaf where I skipped the unique shaping method and simply rolled the entire dough up and tucked the ends like you do with American white bread. Look at the texture differences. The first one, made with the 4 bundles of dough, obviously has the charming swirls imprinted along its sides. It's also much taller and retains its perfect, super satisfying 90-degree angles at every corner. But it's the interior that really tells the story. Our spiraled loaf has a feathery, soft, cushion-like crumb, whereas the other loaf features a drier, looser texture. There's no magic in that loaf. Now I can finally show you my hands-down favorite use for this bread: brown sugar toast. It's so simple. Mix 1 tablespoon of softened butter with 1 packed tablespoon of dark brown sugar. I spread half on one side of a thick slice of shokupan and place the bread butter side down in a small nonstick skillet. Then the rest of the butter mixture goes on the other side. Then I cook it over medium heat until browned and crisp on both sides. You just want to keep an eye on the heat to prevent it from burning. Then let it cool. Now this time it's important, just for a few minutes to allow the caramel to get crispy. And then dig in. This is so good. I need another bite. And another one. Man. Make a sandwich, eat it straight with butter, or go full brown sugar toast. Any way you slice it, this is how to eat Shokupan. Big thanks to Andrea Geary of Cooks Illustrated for this incredible recipe for a plush, floofy cloud of sandwich bread and the brown sugar toast treat. And I guess thanks to Paul for that tip about letting bread cool, even if I'm gonna ignore it. Click like, click subscribe, bake bread, do it all. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.